Welcome back to the Highlight Your Healing podcast. I'm your host, Shannon Roane, grief coach and founder of Highlight Your Healing and J&J Journals. Today marks the beginning of season 3, and I'm excited to open this new chapter with our very first guest. This season is centered around shared stories and real conversations with women who have navigated loss, identity shifts, and life-altering experiences, and are now using what they've learned to make an impact. Today's conversation focuses on grief, resilience, advocacy, and what it means to turn pain into purpose. And today, I'm joined by Rachell Dumas, a nurse, tech innovator, and maternal health advocate who will be sharing her journey through recurrent pregnancy loss, medical dismissal, and the emotional and physical challenges she endured before welcoming her baby boy. Her story highlights not only the personal weight of pregnancy losses, but also the importance of advocacy within the healthcare system. And today, she's using her experience to support other families through her nonprofit and her work in maternal health innovation. Rachell, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Shannon.
I would just love for you to start by introducing yourself and telling us a little more about who you are and your walk through your own journey.
Goodness, that's a heavy question. Well, my name is Rachell Dumas. I am the founder of Herd and also a Light After 9, which I'm sure we'll get to a little later on. But I am so excited to be here and to share my story, and hopefully it's impactful for others. But just a little bit about me. I had 9 pregnancy losses prior to welcoming my now 3-year-old pot-belly toddler who runs his household and doesn't pay a bill. But that journey was full of grief. I mean, from beginning to end. I started my pregnancy journey in 2018, and I had my first miscarriage, and I was just casually told I was having a miscarriage and was told that I was going to have healthy pregnancy. And that was just not what happened at all. I went on to have 8 more losses after that, where I had to fly from Atlanta, Georgia, a big city, to Dallas to save a 20-week pregnancy, where I had to constantly go to the ER to prove that I was in pain and that my symptoms were bad. And then I was dismissed and literally lost my first baby in a twin pregnancy, only to lose the second baby 2 weeks later, where I woke up wet and the baby fell out in the toilet. I had to...
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, just craziness. I mean, I had to show pictures of the baby in the toilet to the provider in order to receive care. I had to speak medical jargon to receive care. I had to prove that I was sick every time, and I still wasn't believed, despite of being a nurse and speaking medical jargon and just actually being sick. I could never be a patient, just a patient. And once I finally had my baby, 6 months later, I wake up blind and had stroke symptoms, and I had to start over again. Only to go to the ER and be told that I can't get a CT scan, which is standard of care for stroke symptoms. A provider lied and said CT scans were down, and they weren't. And also, he told me to take Pepto-Bismol and to go home. So
My
just the
goodness.
constant fighting, just to be heard and to be believed and to receive proper and timely assessment and then treatment for the diagnosis was just a long journey within the already tumultuous and traumatic journey that I had as a patient. And that misdiagnosis led to 2 brain surgeries 7 months ago.
You know the medical jargon. Some of us, like myself, I don't, right? So when you show up to a hospital and, you know what questions to ask. For someone like myself, I may not know. So can you kind of take us down that path of, if we go back to the pregnancy losses, what questions were you asking, or did you not know what questions to ask during that time?
So it was a 4-year journey, and it was definitely a progression, right? So I was a trauma critical care nurse. I didn't know anything about bringing a baby into this world at all. I can save your life. I can save a child's life, but I didn't know much about maternal care. So when I started my pregnancy journey, I started just like any other patient who wasn't that knowledgeable about these processes. I had basic knowledge of the hospital, of course, but not in that specialty. So I had to learn as I went, and I learned very quickly. Did a lot of research. I was finishing my master's degree, so I was already in a research mindset. So what I didn't know, I quickly became a subject matter expert on it. But it was hard because I kept running into issues where I was fully dependent on my healthcare team and they failed me because I wasn't given all my options or the education I needed or the attention I needed to sustain a pregnancy. I didn't see a specialist until after 5 losses.
Wow.
And I only saw a specialist because a manager told me I should see one at my job. It wasn't even my OB.
So it took 5 losses before, and not
5
even your
losses.
OB, for someone to say, hey, maybe we should look at this differently. Looking back now, why do you think maybe it took so long to get to that point?
One, they didn't believe me. There
Hmm.
were there were many situations throughout different pregnancies where I would tell them I'm having these symptoms and I was dismissed. Two, a lot of Black women, and I mean statistically speaking, go through these issues with their healthcare teams where we are dismissed. When we're finally heard, we're not believed. And we get diagnosed so late. The diagnosis is so delayed that by the time we're treated, it's way worse than when we originally had symptoms, which leads to our horrible morbidity rates, but also our very, very horrible mortality rates in
Hmm.
maternal health, especially for Black women.
Yes.
This impacts all of us, but for Black women, we're the ones dying from it at a higher rate. We're the ones impacted at a higher rate. So
Yeah.
it's very sobering, to say the
Hmm.
least, to go through a pregnancy journey like that.
Yeah, definitely at a much higher rate.
Much higher.
So, so just thinking back over your journey of the 9 losses, was there ever a time as you're meeting with the different doctors, I'm assuming it's different doctors over the 9 different losses, what was that bedside manner? I understand not listening to you. And, I'll just tell you my experiences. And with one of my losses, I had 2. With one of them, the doctor came in, said, sorry, there's no heartbeat, and left the room. Like there was no empathy, no compassion, just no bedside manner.
There's
Did you
nothing.
ever experience, anything like that as well?
Well, first of all, I'm so sorry that happened because, yes, I've been there, and it's a horrible feeling to feel abandonment
Mhm,
during a very vulnerable time. I mean, that's truly abandonment. That is horrible
mhm,
bedside manners. And it takes like literally sometimes seconds, to go the extra mile. And in that
mhm,
case, I don't even consider that an extra mile. I've been there as a clinician. I've been there where I'm busy. Like I worked at Grady Hospital, which is
mhm,
a level 1 trauma center. Like,
mhm.
I I used to watch the news and know my patients would be the ones I just saw on the news before I left home. So I know what it means to be busy and to be running all night. There was never a time where I couldn't stop when we're talking about demise and death, where
Mhm.
my patient would need me, where I couldn't just stop and pause with them. It just wasn't.
Right,
And I'm
right.
busy. So my tolerance for bedside manners is like, I just don't tolerate things like that. So when it happened to me, when I had finally reached 20 weeks, I got the cervical cerclage because I had what's called cervical insufficiency. So my cervix is
Mhm,
too weak to carry a baby full term. And what happened is when a baby is heavy enough to sit on the cervix, it'll just silently open up and I have a loss.
mhm,
And the fix that I was told, the cure, the treatment was a cerclage, which is a suture or stitch around the cervix. So I got that. I asked to be seen sooner. She told me to come back in 7 weeks. And I said, ma'am, I've lost 5 babies. Like this is my
right,
sixth pregnancy. You want me to come back 7 weeks? So much can happen.
right.
Literally so much can happen in 7 weeks. Can I be seen sooner? And this is where holistic treatment comes in.
Mhm,
Of course, I lose the baby. The cerclage fails, despite of her saying I would have bleeding and excruciating pain, like I would know when it was failing. None of that happened. I walked into the maternal fetal medicine doctor appointment, like very confident, ready for my 3D ultrasound, rite of passage. the ultrasound tech walks out mid-ultrasound, and the maternal fetal medicine doctor walks in, and she says, "Your cerclage failed. You can go and deliver your baby." Casually. Like a healthy,
Oh my
bouncing baby
goodness.
boy,
Right.
just casually. So I'm asking and trying to advocate even in real time
Mhm.
while trying to process. I'm still very much advocating, like, can we just redo the class? Can you put it higher? Can I be on bed rest?
Mhm.
I'm at 20 weeks. Can we this this NICU is a level 4 NICU. We can hold
Mhm.
so I know my stuff. I'm like, so it can hold a micro preemie. We just need to make it 1 or 2 weeks. No, you could go and deliver. I'll call ahead. Like casually.
Just completely dismissing any and everything that you're saying. So at this time, and I guess not that it even mattered, right? Because at this time you're a patient, not
Right.
Rachel, the nurse, right?
Right.
Did they know at that time that you're like one of them, so to speak? Or did that just not matter to them?
I cannot remember if my doctor knew I was a nurse. I wanna say she did, just because of how I talked. I never
Mhm.
go into a doctor's appointment like, "I'm a nurse," because I
Right.
want to so desperately just be a patient. I've always
Right.
wanted to be a patient.
Mhm.
I've never experienced what that's like to be a patient. I've always had to put on my nurse hat
Mhm.
and advocate for myself, and I'm like, "Okay." Well, I've done the research, but honestly, Shannon, it doesn't matter, which we know that. Like
Right.
all the
Right.
degrees, the money you make, your age,
Mhm.
it doesn't matter. I will say it does matter because Black women, if we're Black, we're gonna get the worst of it. That's when it does
Mhm.
matter. So I'm inclined to say that bias plays a big part in it. So there's that.
Absolutely. So can you walk us through the journey where now you have a healthy baby boy, your rainbow baby?
So, I had to get another surge. I had to literally fly from Atlanta to Dallas to try to save that 20-week pregnancy. That was the longest I've ever been pregnant, so I'm like,
Mhm.
"The baby is healthy, nothing's wrong with the baby." I feel like essentially, I felt like I was killing my child if I gave up. Like, I
Mhm.
really felt that way, so I was like, "No, I gotta fight," whatever that looks like,
Right.
and that looked like traveling to Dallas with a baby falling on my vagina,
My
and
goodness.
working with and telling the stewardess on American Airlines, "Hey, it's a baby that might fall out, but get us to Dallas. Do not land this plane." Like, I would make a scene. Like, "We need to
Right.
get to
Get
Dallas."
I need to get there, right?
Yeah, we don't I'm just telling don't kick me off the plane. I'm just telling you what it is, just in
Yeah.
case we gotta land. But it looked
Mhm.
like going to Dallas and getting surgery to get the cerclage redone, and the surgery taking 8 hours instead of 3, and my cervix being irritated, and then going into labor for 30 hours, and,
Mhm.
being full of grief and fear during that time, hoping that
Mhm.
they could stop the contractions, and, it not working, the medicine not working,
Mhm.
and then having to deliver, and then having to have my baby be buried at the hospital or cremated and then buried
Mm.
in the hospital garden, and having to grieve that and still
Mhm.
trying, and having to go back to Dallas to get a transabdominal, a different type of cerclage that I wasn't even told about that could have
Wow.
completely changed the trajectory of my pregnancy journey and possibly had only been 6 losses instead of 9,
Mhm.
It meant that finally when I had a baby that I couldn't even bond with him because who knew if he was gonna stay or not? Because in my mind,
Right.
every other baby left, so what would make this baby different? You know?
Wow. Yeah, so
It's
struggle with kind of that emotional attachment.
Yeah, for sure. It's
Right.
going to counseling even now every week and, being consistent with that and being intentional about bonding with my baby,
Mhm.
and transitioning from a nurse-patient relationship to a baby relationship. All of
Right.
that impacted motherhood and just how I viewed my relationships with my providers in the healthcare system.
So now that baby boy's here, um,
He's here.
do you he's here. What does motherhood look like, especially after the previous losses? Do you feel like you navigate motherhood differently?
I wanna say this, because I hate when people say, now you're gonna appreciate it more." I didn't need
Mhm.
9 pregnancy losses to appreciate motherhood. I didn't need all these medical bills to appreciate motherhood. I did not need any of what I went through in those
Mm-hmm.
4 years to appreciate my if
To
I would
appreciate.
have gotten pregnant, ate some pickles, do a maternity photo shoot, and then gave birth, I would have been equally grateful for this
Mm-hmm.
baby. Like, I refuse to believe that we have to justify, all this loss and inequity in the healthcare system and dismissal and all these things that I went through and grief and all these other things with, "Oh, but it made you more a better mom." It didn't make me a
Right.
better
It.
mom at all. It
Thank you.
didn't.
Exactly. Right.
It didn't at all, like, at all. If
And
anything, it coulda made it worse.
right. And I'm glad you answered that way because so many times we get those, well, at least statements or those very dismissive things that people can say to women who have experienced a loss, or at least
Yes.
it was early, or at least you can get pregnant. Those were some of the things that were said to me time and
Mhm.
time again that are so dismissive. So, I'm
It is.
absolutely. So I'm glad you answered it in that way, right? That it doesn't matter how many losses I've had. My baby is my baby today, and I'm going to love this baby whether it was one loss, no losses, nine losses.
Yes.
Nothing changes. What advice would you give someone as they're navigating the healthcare system that may not know how to advocate for themselves?
Well, one, address your mental health as early as possible. I really, really push and impress upon people to do a preconception because you just don't
Mhm.
know. Even if you have a cookie cutter pregnancy,
Mhm.
pregnancy just changes everything. You, your
Yes.
body, your mental health, your marriage, just
Mhm.
your friendships. Like, there are friends I don't even have friends. Some of the
Mhm.
friends that I started my pregnancy journey with now, like, they're not
Mhm.
it's so much. So I wanna address that so you can be as efficient and present as possible, whatever that looks like for
Right.
you.
Right.
2, as far as advocacy, make sure if you can that your healthcare team and be unapologetic about cutting them off. Like,
Mhm.
there are really providers out here that do practice with bias and do think Black people don't experience pain or certain symptoms like they're reporting, and they don't believe, really
Mhm.
be unapologetic about who is on your maternal health team and cut it off, leave, switch over the paperwork, do the annoying thing where you switch the paperwork. I wish I would have, I could have potentially saved myself some losses if I would have done that.
Right.
And I know it's
Absolutely
difficult.
agree. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I 100% agree with that. Get a second opinion. For
Mhm.
myself, after the first loss, I was like, okay, well, I don't know what this doctor was doing, didn't tell me, did tell me,
Yeah.
but I need to find
Yeah.
somebody else. And for me, on the
Mhm.
day where I was at the hospital, they couldn't even get in touch with her. So it was somebody else, another doctor that came over, and I ended up switching and going over there. But get a second opinion, find somebody else. If you don't agree with what it is that they're saying, they're telling you, get a second opinion. So just kind of going back, I know you touched on it a little bit about therapy. What are maybe some other things that helped you mentally and emotionally during that time that you were going through your losses?
Yeah, definitely therapy, but even not just, talk therapy, but I've also tried hypnotherapy throughout this time, and that was very helpful to essentially retrain my brain to not hold on to the losses in a way that it impacted me continuing on my pregnancy journey because I hadn't tried everything, all the treatment, and I knew later on down the line I would regret if I hadn't tried everything and left some on the table. And hypnotherapy allowed me to keep pushing. Also just leaning on those who were with me along that journey, whether it was friends or family or
Hmm.
whoever at that time. Sometimes it was healthcare providers. That provider in Texas was very supportive. He was the first provider that said, "If you're gonna fight, I'm gonna fight with you.
Mm,
The risk, but I'm gonna be there." And I just
I love
couldn't.
that.
I can't think of a better healthcare provider or
Hmm.
even confidant. That man was at my bedside at 1 p.m., 3 a.m. I was like, this man must be
Dedicated.
a vampire. Yeah, like, when do you sleep. Do you realize we might have to go to surgery at any given time?
Right. I
Do
need you to have
do
all your
you
rest.
realize? Like, this is like, we might have to roll back in like an hour. Like, have you slept, sir? He's like, I'm old. I don't need that much. I don't need that much sleep. But Dr. Fogwell, shout out to Dr. Fogwell at Texas Health in
Mhm.
Dallas. I praise his name to high heavens, and he gave me his number. Was like, text me. I'm serious. I want to know immediately. Don't tell the nurse first. Let me know. And but just leaning on the people who are really there and supportive, giving myself grace, which I wasn't good
Mhm.
at all, and just knowing that if I didn't have a baby,
Mhm.
that it doesn't define my womanhood, because I feel like society attaches our ability to have a child to our womanhood, and it sucks because that's when
Mhm.
guilt comes in, even more unnecessary grief creeps in, and
Mhm.
embarrassment, and we don't get to share these stories because we're so busy worrying about our womanhood being attached to that we don't acknowledge that we're going through something very traumatic and real, and we need
Mhm.
support, but we become hermit crabs because of society.
Right. We suffer in silence. We don't talk
We
about
do.
it. So how has, your story shaped the work that you're doing today? And why do you think it's important to share your voice to help other women?
Absolutely. So I truly believe that storytelling is the catalyst for change. I've seen the shift when I do a lot of public speaking.
Mhm.
I have a signature presentation where I've turned my pregnancy journey into an interactive case study, and I present it in front of providers, different clinicians, policy makers and legislators, and patients. And I've seen the looks on people's faces when I get to the end of the story and reveal that this is my pregnancy journey.
Mhm.
And people may forget my name, my credentials, everything, but they never forget
Right.
my 9 pregnancy losses and the toll it took on my body and the grief that it caused. They just
Mhm.
won't. And you can see them go back. And I've even had providers tell me that I look at patients so differently now. I look at the healthcare system so differently now. It impacted me in a way that I could never allow a patient to be treated the way you were. I
Mhm.
recognize things more, more early, more early on. And, it just really changes things. Talked to politicians and told them my story, and it changed the way they had pushed forward certain bills or
Mhm.
voted, so that then becomes a domino effect that leads to better maternal health outcomes. And I tell my story because I want to empower others to tell their stories, because it would be a bigger domino effect. It would be more
Mhm.
change. So it's so much work that we have to do, especially in maternal health, but just in healthcare in general. But
Right.
that storytelling is what really stick with people. They remember that during these critical times where they're in a position of power to make
Mhm.
changes that can impact us.
Right. Absolutely. So if you had to leave women with one thing, one or two things, it could be more than one. What do you hope that women take away from your journey?
So just one thing.
It doesn't have to be one. So
Oh,
I'll leave it open to however many you want to add.
well, one, just to advocate for yourself, making sure your voice is heard and making sure that you are disciplined in what you will and will not accept in your healthcare and maternal health journey, because it can literally be the difference between life and death.
Mhm.
So be unapologetic about that. What you want to accept, what you will accept. Take
Right.
somebody with you, because I know when you have chronic issues, you're just tired. And I've been at the point where I just want to give up. And if it wasn't for that potbelly 3-year-old, I probably wouldn't be here. It was times in the hospital, I was just like, take me. I can't wake up blind another day. I'm just tired. But your baby and
Mhm.
whoever, whatever catalyst it is, won't let that happen. They
Right.
just won't. Take care of your mental health. I can't
Mhm.
express how important that is. to really address those things, because you can't function without addressing your grief and anxiety and rage and all the other things that comes with how the healthcare system impacts you, especially when you're a patient not being listened to, how difficult pregnancy journeys impact you, how chronically dealing with an issue that is life-threatening impacts you. So just address your mental health therapy and don't be embarrassed to do that. And lean on community, raise your voice, tell your story. You never know who else you're releasing and empowering. But most important, you're really releasing and empowering your own self. And that's so
Yes,
important.
absolutely. Definitely big on telling your story and all the
Mhm.
things, right? The community support means so much. That was the one thing when I look back at my own story. I didn't have the big support system because I didn't tell my story. I didn't share what was going on with me. I was suffering in silence. So, big on telling your story, advocating for yourself, taking care of your mental health, and just reaching out. You're not alone in this journey.
Yes, you're not alone.
Rachel, thank you for sharing your story, and thank you for all of the work that you're doing now to make sure other women don't have to walk through this alone. So what
Thank
stands
you.
out to me is how you advocated, how you're now using your experience to support other women who may still be in the middle of their own unanswered questions.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It's not easy. I would say that.
Yeah, it's definitely not easy. And to the woman listening, if you are navigating pregnancy loss or diagnosis dismissal, I hope today's conversation reminded you that your experience is real. Your emotions are valid and you deserve to be supported. And you are not alone in this. So, Rachel, before we close, where can listeners find you and learn more about your nonprofit and your app?
Absolutely. So, as far as my nonprofit for maternal health, so those who are navigating difficult pregnancy journeys and their village, right? It truly takes a village. People talk about it
Yes.
take a village to raise a child. It takes a village to navigate these pregnancy journeys. You can't do that by yourself and then go give birth to a child and everybody comes in. We need support the whole way. So please visit alightafter9.org or visit our socials, A Light After Nine. As far as those who need assistance with any issues, if you're in a hospital being dismissed, or you need assistance with talking to your healthcare providers, you need to escalate harm, or you just need extra support to navigate the healthcare system, Heard is my new app that is currently in beta test. You can go to my Heard app, HEARD app.com, and learn more and become a beta tester, sign up for our newsletter, and all our socials are my Heard app. And we would love to assist you in any type of way to tackle whatever issues you have within the healthcare system.
I love it. And all of Rachel's information will be listed in the show notes. So you can go out there, find where she is, and be a beta tester for her app. Find her in her nonprofit, A Light After Nine. So all of her information will be in the show notes. Thank you again for being here and for trusting this space with your story. And to our listeners, if today's episode resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a review so this conversation can reach another woman searching for support. I'll talk to you soon.